You're listening to the Racer to Racer podcast presented by Race 92. Race 92 is a Venice-inspired racing apparel brand specializing in celebrating vintage race culture and adapting motorsports today. Check out race92.com for all your racing merchandise needs. I'm your co-host, Aaron Mactia. Other co-hosts you may have seen walking out of a great clubs with a big old smile on his face. You've probably seen him at a dirt track. He is a one and only Mr. Scott Bowie.
Hello, Aaron.
Or is my phone? So when I'm driving and when I've called you before, like I hit the button and I say call Scott Bowie, and my phone will say calling Scott Bow.
Well, it's not the worst thing I've been called.
Right. Right. Well, obviously this is a big week. We're a few days away from the biggest race of the world, Indy 500. I've definitely been to the track most of the month, pretty much any day the track's open. I've been out there. You've been out there, a few days as well. And yeah, one of the greatest times of the year for sure.
It really is. And we actually took in the final day of qualifying. We sat there and watched that. What a great show that was. Scott Dixon did what Scott Dixon does. And it never ceases to amaze me what he can do. But all of that will be covered in your race preview show. Unfortunately, I was not able to be a part of that. I had some other things I had to do. But Jagger Jones filled in, I'm sure, keenly for me and did a great job. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it like everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I was introducing everyone, I was joking, like with Robbie, I was like, Jagger is sitting in for Scott, like literally sitting in the exact place where Scott would be sitting.
Yeah, no, that's funny. No, he was gracious to be able to do it, and thanks to him. And yeah, man, what an exciting time, like you said. And of course, we've got this week's guest, which is Little Al, and that's all you need to say. And man, he was so great to talk to, and he summed it up perfectly when he said, "You just don't know what Indy means," and boy, he's right. I mean, you just it's hard to describe.
Absolutely. And definitely, like you said, Cat's the race preview show, because that's something we talk about with Robbie. In the preview show, we have Robbie McGee, and we have Jagger Jones, obviously, myself, and David Land. And we wanted to kind of split it up in two parts, where the first part, we talk with Robbie really kind of about his experiences in the 500. He talks a little bit about, so he actually drove USF 2000 cars, which I didn't realize. So him and Jagger kind of had a conversation about that, kind of how the cars are different now, and different things like that. But Robbie really talked a lot about how much Indy really means to him. And he was like, I'm just getting goosebumps just sitting here talking about it. So it was a really good conversation. Kind of gives you a different perspective from a driver's view of what Indy means to them. So like I said, definitely check out the race preview show. And David Land, if you remember last year, he actually guessed who was going to win the race. So I was giving him a lot of I was giving him a hard time about it, saying you picked it last year. I said your whole marketing and branding from this year was from our show. I said, so if you don't guess it, like, you're screwed for next year.
That's right. Yeah, no.
So he just started saying every single driver, and that way he can just prop. I'm just kidding.
No, yeah, no, it's gonna be really interesting to watch. I had such a fun time doing it last year, and man, this week coming up is just gonna be special. And um, and I don't know, it's hard to talk about Indy for me sometimes. It's just it means so much, and it's such a big deal, especially to someone like myself. So. I can't wait till this Sunday. I can't wait to watch the race. I can't wait to go watch IRP Friday and watch Jagger race and watch the midgets and Silver Crown cars run out there. And Saturday night I'll be spotting for Shane Hollingsworth again in the Little 500. I've got a busy week planned. So yeah, I love this time of year.
Absolutely. Scott Bowie. I think all of us are very busy during this time of year. So wouldn't trade it for anything. And man, it's a weird feeling like, and we can talk about this next week, but when there's just so much going on during the month and the day after the race, it just feels
It's
like
sad.
it's sad. No, you're exactly
It's
right. It's like a
sad.
feeling of
It's
sadness.
sad, and it's been like that for me since I was a little kid. It's I won't say it's like a death, but it's like
Right.
something you would. It's not like something you had been looking so forward to is
Yeah,
over, and you're just sad about it. I
absolutely.
mean, and then it just slowly starts building back up, and then by the time it comes around the next year, you're ready for it. And um, but yeah, I mean, like I'll go through a day or two just kind of moping around.
Oh, absolutely. So, like we said, obviously this show is Unser Jr. Next week, we are going to release Ted and Angela Savage, who Ted Warner. He's an author. He started the Be Miles Ahead Foundation or driving school. And they were actually the first driving school to be inside the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I believe. And he started that with Stefan Gregoire,
Hmm.
which great conversation. And obviously, book author. He wrote a book with Angela, who is the daughter of Sweet Savage. And that
Hmm.
was really great conversation. And I definitely think everyone will enjoy that. It was definitely great to talk to them.
Absolutely, and and these were two people I'd never met before. I really enjoyed the talk. They were gracious with their time, and she was very open about the things you go through when you go through what she did at such a young age, and and what her family went through, and so it was very, very interesting. I can't wait for people to see it. Um, yeah, so yeah, it's just another great show coming out next week. So it's kind of fun to be able to have kind of three things. Although I wasn't part of the race preview, but kind of three things, and then we'll be doing a race review next week that I definitely can be a part of. So man, just what a great time of year.
Absolutely. And actually, during this year, or during the past couple weeks, we actually worked on a couple video projects as well that we will be releasing in the coming weeks. I'm super excited about. Still working on them, but there's some good stuff in there for sure.
I agree, and they're fun, and yeah, and I think I think you've done a great job. Aaron did all the video work. Aaron's done all the cutting and mixing, and I've been able to see some of the roughs, and we hope people enjoy it. And yeah, it was just again, man, it's just a good time. It's something good to see. Hey, and before I forget, I want to give a shout out to Kevin Lee and Jackson and his mom for the Burger Bash raising
Yeah,
money. So it was at the USAC offices last night, and really kind of a good way to kick off the week. And there were a
great
lot of
turnout.
drivers there.
Yeah.
Yeah, great turnout, a lot of drivers there, and I just want to give a huge attaboy shout out to him because it was a great event.
Absolutely. And the Burger Bash is something that I remember, man, almost as long as I can remember. I mean, they had it back in, I think, Weldon's Panther days. I remember going to, so it was 2007, 2008. So it's definitely a
Yeah,
tradition. It was on Carb Night before, but it's still, and I think it's great that they're doing it now, right over here in
I-
Speedway, because before they did it 90, I think it was like the 96th Street Burger, the old restaurant they used to have over there on 96th Street by 465 in
yeah,
Keystone.
and that is where they had it, and I like they had Prime 47, who's one of their sponsors, come out, do some catering, and they had some food trucks there, and it was just such a great event. Can't wait to go back next year. They and for anybody who can remember, and we'll try to kind of maybe pump it a little more next year as leading up, because they've got auction items and some really interesting things that they you know they offer up. So I would, anybody, if you can't go to it, please at least check out as it's coming around, and check out the auction items.
Oh, absolutely. Well, like we said, I hope everyone enjoys the Unser Jr. interview. It was definitely great to have him on. And I definitely thought it was appropriate to release it this week, leading up to the 500 30th anniversary of his win. So definitely very appropriate to release. And we talked to him for a while, and it was a very good conversation. And I definitely think everyone will enjoy. And yeah, thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you haven't already, make sure you hit like and subscribe.
Please do. We enjoy, and please send questions and notes and all those types of things because we enjoy reading those. So I wish everybody a great week. I hope everybody has great Memorial Day weekend, and hope you enjoy the race that's coming up because I will.
Absolutely. I hope everyone enjoys and have a great week. Our guest today is a 1992 and 1994 Indianapolis 500 winner and the 1990 and 1994 IndyCar champion. He is also a two-time IROC champion. We are joined by Unser Jr. Al, it's an absolute honor to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
You betcha. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you, Al.
So obviously, I think everyone is kind of familiar with your family's history in racing, obviously how you got started in racing. But at what point would you say in your life or in your career did you realize that like the Indy 500 was like your ultimate goal and what you really wanted to do?
Oh gosh, I was pretty young. Watching Dad win the Indy 500 in 1970. I was 8 years old. It was on closed circuit TV. My sisters and I were in Albuquerque at the Civic Auditorium, so it was on a big screen, on a big screen up there, and the car was just so beautiful and big, and I went, oh, it's something that from that time forward was my ultimate goal, was to get to the Indianapolis 500. Yeah.
When was the first time, or how old were you when you actually first got in it was a cart that you first got into? It was like a quarter midget.
No, it was go-karts there in Albuquerque, and it was the next year. I was 9 years old, and just so happened that a go-kart track was built just about a mile away from my house. And honestly, when I look back at it now, it was a God thing, that all took place. And so go-karts at that time was just beginning to gain popularity in the United States at that time. And so, yeah, once that go-kart track was built, I was just begging my dad and my mom to get me a go-kart so that I can go racing. So
Did that track, was it one of those deals where you could only be there on race days, or was it something you could just go to anytime and run?
you could go there anytime because it was a business, and it was a rental cart, business. And so, yeah, it was open 7 days a week, and you could go there at any time. And so, we did the rental carts there at first, and it wasn't long at all before we were racing the go-karts. So.
How much time were you spending there a week? I mean, was it hours or?
Well, yeah, if I could go up there every day after school, I would. But Dad didn't really. Dad and Mom, they didn't really spend a lot of money on the rental carts. I did a
Right.
little bit of that, but really the racing cart showed up almost straight away, and so we were up there racing the go-karts on weekends, which was much faster than the rental carts were. And so once the racing cart showed up, then that was what we were doing full time. So
After go-karts, you did what was the first actual like race car you drove outside of go-karts? Was it the sprint cars or was it the Super V?
it was sprint cars. I went from racing go-karts when I was 16 to a sprint car there locally in Albuquerque, and I actually got to race on the same racetrack that my dad and Uncle Bobby and my Uncle Jerry and my Uncle Louie began their careers on. It was
That's
called
cool.
Speedway Park. It was a little quarter-mile dirt oval, and so it doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. But yeah, I got to begin my career on the same track that my dad did.
So obviously, at a
You
young
were
age. Sorry, go ahead, Scott.
I was just going to say you were a trailblazer even then, because it was rare that 16-year-olds ran sprint cars back then, and now they all run sprint cars.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there was the local sprint car club tried to stop me from running because I was too young. They felt I was too young. And so when we showed up there the very first night, they tried to stop me from driving, period. And they all got together, the drivers, and said, let's see how he does in hot laps, and let's just, see what he does. And so I ran hot laps, and they met again, and they decided, okay, yeah, he can run tonight. We'll let him run tonight. And so I did, and I stayed out of trouble and that sort of thing that first night. And then the club guys, they got together and they voted on it, and they voted for me not to be able to run again. And my dad was going, well, why? Well, he's 16, and the insurance, the rule in the club was you had to be 18 years old because of insurance. Okay. And that's what they laid it on. And so Dad went to the insurance company and goes, what's the rule on the insurance company? And they said, as long as you have a valid driver's license, then you're covered on insurance. And I had a valid driver's license, okay, and so Dad went to the club and he goes, "Hey, it's not insurance, it's you guys, and so they changed the rule, and I was allowed to run because they blamed it on the insurance, and the insurance company said no, he's covered, so I began racing.
Obviously, like your goal, I mean, before that was always to race at Indy, and obviously going from go karts to sprint cars on dirt. I mean, that's a lot different than racing at Indy. So, kind of, what was kind of the mindset or the idea of doing that? Because I mean, it's kind of going away from kind of your goal, what you're trying to do at that point.
Well, okay, so my path was really laid out by my father.
Mhm.
Okay. And so all I was doing was following the same steps that he and Uncle Bobby took. Okay. So I ran sprint cars there. They ran what they called modified sprint cars because when they began, the actual sprint car wasn't developed yet. It wasn't a two frame. So it was something that developed later on. However, when I was 16, that same year, Dad took me up to Pikes Peak, and so I ran Pikes Peak, or I tried to run Pikes Peak, and it was too early for me to go up to Pikes Peak. I was so lucky I didn't hurt myself and crash and all that kind of stuff because I really didn't know what I was doing at all, and so during qualifying at Pikes Peak that year, my car broke, and so I didn't complete qualifications, and so I missed the show basically. And Dad tried to get me to be a promoter's option, and they go, no, we don't do promoter's options. If you don't complete your qualifying run, you don't race, you miss the show. And so that very first year up at Pikes Peak, and thank God for that, because honestly I was not ready for Pikes Peak at all in any way. And so that first year I missed the show, and then began running sprint cars again, and getting more experience and more maturity. So
And then from
I'm
the
not sure people today understand how important Pikes Peak was at that time. Pikes Peak was a very important event at that time, and
mhm.
it had been for years. And I just don't think that people today truly understand what a big deal it was to run Pikes Peak.
Yeah, quite honestly, the next time I went to Pikes Peak, I was 20 years old. Drove Uncle Bobby's Pikes Peak car, and we ended up being rookie of the year, and I finished third in the hill climb that year. It is the slickest road course that I had run at the time. Okay. And that's exactly what it is. It's a road course that you go up, and it's dirt, and it's extremely slippery. And so you just had to really use your head and use car feel to get yourself up the road there on race day. And so yeah, that's honestly what it, and that's what it taught my dad and my uncle Bobby was how to drive a road course. So
So from doing the sprint cars, you went straight into the Super V, right?
yes, yep.
And I mean, at the time, I don't remember. So how many years were you in Super V for?
Just one full year. Okay.
Okay.
In 1980, I was just graduating high school and that sort of thing, and we ran two races. The one was my very first Super V race was at Michigan, and then the second one was at the end of the season at Phoenix. I finished fourth at Michigan, and then when we got to Phoenix, we put it on the pole and won the race. And so then it was 1981 that Rick Gallis hired me, and he started a Super V team, and so that's when I started running road courses and ovals. It was that complete season. So
While in Super V, one of your big rivals was actually Pete Hosmer at the time, right? And
yeah,
I always thought it was interesting because you were, I forget how old you were, but you were pretty young and he was almost like 40, I think.
he was older. I don't know how
Yeah.
old he actually was, but yeah, he had a lot of experience, and he was older, and he was one of my biggest competitors. Him and John Paul Jr.
Right.
was in it, and so he was really strong too.
Do you think that I mean, especially like again, people today just don't realize how big Super Vs were at that time, and but for you to come in and run so well immediately, I mean, obviously that's a testament to your talent. I mean, what is it? Do you think that? And I try to ask this in a way where it's not pandering. What is it about what you think that you possessed in your talent, even starting at a young age, that you could really apply that and be so fast in everything you were driving? I mean, immediately.
It pretty much it all started with the go-karts, and my dad, teaching me what a racing line is on a road course. That go-kart track was a road course. And so he taught me what an apex is without even saying the word. The first time I had ever heard about an apex was when I went up to Bob Bondurant's school up at Sears Point, which is now Sonoma Raceway and that sort of thing. And so, I hadn't had any official schooling. It was all my dad, and so it was just he worked with me, and he just taught me how to do it, how to have a racing line, and that even went up into the snowmobiles when we would go racing the snowmobiles, going through the forest and stuff like that. I could see what the line would be going through those roads and those logging roads and so on. And so it was just something that honestly, it came natural to me. And so I was just trying to do the best job I could do. And with my dad's help and mentorship, we just went at the pace that was comfortable with me. Like when we went from the go-karts to the sprint car, Dad just said, let's just see how you do. And if you can't control the car or whatever, then we'll choose something else for you to do. Okay. But I got in the sprint car and I went out and I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun, and I just was able to adapt to all the different cars that I ran. And it was something that I truly worked on. being able to adapt to the different cars all throughout my career, because I felt that if you could adapt to your car, then you could get the most out of it on race day. Because even during the race, like during the 500 miles, the track changes. Things change during the races, and so you need to be able to adapt to those changes. And so if I could adapt to the different cars, which is why I went and raced IROC, it's why I went and raced the Daytona 24 Hours, because they were different disciplines that you needed to adapt to. And I really felt that if I could adapt to it, that would make me a better driver at the Indy 500. It was all geared towards that, and so, that's what we did. And so, it all had a lot to do with just Dad making it fun, and going out and enjoying it. So,
Was it an obsession for you?
absolutely. Yeah. I thought about it 24/7. I worked at it. Racing was something that I just truly, truly enjoyed and wanted to do more of it all the time.
So your first IndyCar race was 1982 at Riverside, right?
Yep.
Did you do any like testing before that, or was that just like your first real?
No, it was my first. I mean, there was no test in the IndyCar. It was something that
Go get him,
actually,
kid.
yeah, Rick Gallis is the one that really put up the money for me to run for the Jerry Forsythe. It was his car, and I had been running the Can-Am car that year in 1982, and so we had run. We had tested the Can-Am car, and had run that at Riverside. So it really, I knew the track and so on, and so. We showed up there and in the first practice session. And again, this is my dad. Okay. I'm sitting on the wall. Practice is going to start here in about 15 minutes. He comes and sits on the wall next to me, and he can tell that I'm nervous as hell. Okay. And he goes, "Hey, relax. It's just a race car. It's just another race car. So it's nothing special, just get in it and drive it. And go out there and have fun with it. And it's just a race car. So treat it as such. It's nothing magical, kind of thing. And so that just calmed me right down. He was right. Just go out there and just adapt to it and have fun and enjoy it and sneak up on it and feel it out, all that kind of stuff, which again, having my dad there with those simple words just relaxed me. It was good.
So, and then obviously the next year, your first year at Indy, and obviously, I mean, you'd been around Indy 500 for many years, but that was your first time, obviously, experience it. Kind of, what was your expectations leading into that race, and would you say that it kind of was what you expected, or was it just a whole different experience of what you expected it to be?
Well, I mean, every day was a new day that my rookie year at Indy, and so I
Mhm.
didn't have any expectations at all. Okay, we just went out there and took one day at a time, and just went out and did the best we could, and so there was no expectations. It was just every day was just a dream come true for me, and so it was truly special. It was very special, like pulling out onto the racetrack in an Indy car the very first time was a dream come true. Just being able to drive out on rookie orientation. And then when we get back there for practice and to qualify for the Indy 500 was another dream come true. Now we're qualified. And so walking out on race day morning, okay, getting in the car, another dream come true, that now I'm actually racing in the Indy 500. Those are magical moments. And so when those dreams came true, then the next dream was to win the Indy 500. And it took me a long time to win the Indy 500, a lot longer than I wanted it to. That's for sure. I look at my dad and my Uncle Bobby, they both won the Indy 500 for themselves on the fifth try. It took him 5 years to win. You know, Uncle Bobby was a rookie in 63. He wins the race in 68. My dad's a rookie in 65. He wins the race in 70. Okay. And so for me, it took me 10 years. I was going, I'm never going to win this thing, you know? And so, you know, we came so close in 89, you know, and, but we didn't win, you know? And so that was the dream from that point forward, was to win the 500. So.
I think it was the Bob and Tom show in '92. I think like you and Shelly, I believe, were on there, and you sang like a song about the race or something.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was. And I remember thinking, you know, it's kind of cool to see how laid back he kind of is. Like you're obviously it's very important to you, but you weren't so uptight that you couldn't enjoy the moment.
Dude, I was
And
uptight. Believe me, I was uptight
right,
for every Indy
sure,
500, and it was really Shelley goes, and how all that came about was Thursday was carb day, and it had rained out. Carb day got rained out, and so we were on a rain delay. Okay, and Bob and Tom was just a couple motorhomes down from mine doing their morning show, and Shelly goes, "Come on, let's go sing this song or whatever." And I go, "You're crazy. No, we don't need, come on, it'll be good for you. Come on, let's go." And so I go, reluctantly, I go, "Oh, okay, we'll go down and talk to Bob and Tom." And so I just walked up. Shelly and I just walked up, and they went, "Al, come talk to us, da 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 da," you know, because they were trying to fill time, okay, because it was a rain delay. And so Shelly goes, "Let's sing the song." And so it was something that her and Bobby Jr. Over some beers down in Disney World come up with, and it was somewhere over the Speedway and that sort of thing. And it was really an ode to Emerson taking me out in '89 and that kind of thing. And so we had fun with it. It was good. So.
yeah, I thought in a lot of ways I felt like it kind of helped set a tone, maybe in a small way for you. And it was so nice, you know, and of course that race we all know about that day, and what a tough day that was, and for so many people, and then for it to end the way it did, you know, it was that they always say that people always remember the finish. Well, the finish was so great that a lot of people don't realize that's the same race that had all the crashes, I think. And you know, it's such a, you know, you got Bob Jenkins with the great call and all that, and it just you know, it was really one of the Speedway's more magical moments. And then you get out of the car and say what I feel is maybe some of the most important words that's ever been said. You just don't know what Indy means,
Right.
and boy,
Really,
it was such a.
It was Jack Arut's question that that prompted that whole thing. He was you know, the question he had asked, and I can't remember it right, but he just kind of left it so general, you know, on everything. And you know, I had spent my lifetime getting to that moment, to that place, which is Victory Lane in Indy, and the only thing I could think of it, you just don't know what this means to me. I mean, it's out there, and I can't find the words on what it does mean. And so it was really the way Jack Arut said it, who you know, through the years, Jack Arut had become a good friend of mine, and so we were finally made it, and you know, we're there, and so it was a special moment for him too. So yeah.
So you're talking about like how, you know, uptight you always were around the month of May. So obviously your first Indy win, I would think that would just take a big weight off of your shoulders. And would you say like the years after that, you went into the race maybe a little more relaxed than normal?
Absolutely. The answer is yes. Yeah. I mean, having that first win was just so important to me, and then we got it. And so from that point forward, coming back to Indy, I was more relaxed. I had accomplished my lifetime goal, and I never really thought about doing it again, being an all-time winner of the 500. I mean, that was Dad and Uncle Bobby with the 3 and 4 times, and quite honestly, it would be since I won it, that was all done. It'd be really nice if I could win it one more time to prove that just wasn't a fluke, okay? Of winning it just the one time, and so joining Roger in '94 and having that support and that effort in '94, just made it extremely special to do it again and prove that it just wasn't a fluke on that first one. So.
Right.
You said we went and saw you speak recently, and you mentioned in there in your stories which is in your book, which unfortunately I have not read yet, about you actually.
Shame on you! You need to read that.
I know I'm terrible.
I haven't read it either, but I'm going to.
I promise you, I'll read it. I do.
Okay,
I've got John Andretti's book here to read too, so I got to read
Good
both.
man. Yep.
You mentioned that you take a pay cut. I mean, a potential pay cut to go drive for Roger because you had a better deal. What was it? Just the fact that, hey, if I go drive for Roger, I know for a fact I am going to be in the very best equipment, and I can make the rest of it work. I can get my money back some other way.
That's right. Absolutely. I mean, would you rather be paid $1 million or give up the $1 million on pay in order to have the finest equipment that money can buy and go out there and drive it and have your best shot at winning the races, not just the Indy 500, but the races, the championships, and not just for 1 year, but for several years, which one would it be? And that was a no-brainer. I mean, I want to be in the best equipment and so on. And that's what Roger means. That's what it means to drive for Roger is he gives you all the best opportunities to be the best that you can be. And that's really his secret with all of his companies, all of his people that work for him. He wants them to be the best they can be, and he doesn't want to hold them back in any way. So he's in a position to do that, and I think that's what Roger has really worked hard at in his life, is surrounding himself with good people and then giving them the tools that they need to go out to be the best that they can be. So.
And I was watching the 94 race the other day, and they mentioned something about you had lost radio communication during the race, right?
At the very beginning of the race, there was no radios at all during the whole race.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the whole race, yeah. I think as soon as we pulled away, we checked the radios, and I think as soon as I pulled away, something happened, and no radios at all. So we had to go to the signboards, which at that time, it wasn't against the rules. Today, it's against the rules if you don't have any radio communication with your driver and back and forth. They black flag you and bring you in and make you fix the radio today. That's why you don't see any boardmen out on the front straightaway ever, because there's no need for it. You're either with radio communication or you're not. And back in that day, that rule did not exist. So we had boardmen out there on the track. And so we did it all by using the board like they used to before they even had radios.
Obviously, I mean, you don't have the spotters. So, I mean, I guess I would make it, I mean, I would think that would make it a lot harder, right? Or maybe less pressure.
Well,
I
okay,
guess it
so
just depends.
yeah, the Indy is pretty much a single groove racetrack, okay, with the Indy cars. And so at Indianapolis, it's really, the spotter can tell you that there's an accident around the corner. Like when you're going down the backstretch, you can't see turn 4, okay?
Right.
And so all you can see is 3. And so the spotter is really beneficial to see to help you see around the corner. Now the spotters are really where they came from and so on was when IndyCar went to the high bank tracks and they're running two abreast all the way around the track, like Texas, for example. And so the spotter really became invaluable to let you know that there's a guy on your outside in your blind spot, and that they go around the track that way. And so, at Indy, it didn't apply there because you didn't run two abreast all the way around there, at that time. So there was really no need for the spotter, I guess what I'm trying to say. And at Michigan, when we would run at Michigan, okay, Pocono is a single groove track. Okay. Michigan, you'd run two abreast there, but not for very long. Okay. And so you really knew what was going on. You really didn't need the spotter. But once they went to the high bank, 1.5 miles, the IRL was formed. The cars had a lot of grip to them. They're running two abreast, 2 and 3 rows deep. Yeah, you need the spotter for that.
So obviously 96, we have the split. Obviously now the Indy 500 and the Michigan 500, I think is what they called it. I guess I would think because Indy 500 meant so much to you, it just didn't feel right? I mean, to compete in a race the same day as Indy 500, and they were, in a way, trying to compare that to the Indy 500, right?
Yeah, going into it, when the IRL was formed and stuff, Roger, it's in my contract that he goes to the Indy 500 and races, and so when that didn't happen and we saw that happening, Roger talked to me and go, hey, I want you to drive for me, and I know it says it in the contract, but it leaves me no choice. I can't go to the Indy 500. And so I said, no, Roger, I want to stay with you. I want to stay with you. And I didn't realize how much it was going to truly affect me. I didn't think it was a big deal because I'm driving for Roger Penske, the best ride in the world. But once we got out in the race and we're running, it was called the US 500. Okay. And we're at Michigan and, somewhere during the race, like half distance or something like that, I'm going down the backstretch and the thought occurred to me, I'm at the wrong racetrack. Okay. I'm running 200 miles an hour and I'm at the wrong track. I should be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and not at Michigan. And then, that's when I truly, truly missed the Indy 500. And then it got worse and worse and worse. The more we were away from it, that empty hole inside me was just got bigger and bigger and bigger, So then when 2000, I finally had to go back to the 500 and leave Penske Racing and so on. So.
Well, unfortunately, it becomes a business decision at that point, right? I mean, because there wasn't a ton of money in the IRL. I mean, it wasn't like they had as good contracts as what you had at Roger. And, and while your heart wants one thing, you got to be business savvy as well. And, how long is this going to last? Is it going to last? Is it not going to last? That had to be terrible for guys like you and, Michael, and I know somebody like PJ Jones, who his entire life he'd worked toward that, and then he gets to deal with Gurney, and then they never, then he and Gurney never run the speedway together,
right?
And that had to be just terrible for you guys.
The split really did hurt everyone involved. It hurt IndyCar as a whole, okay, and nobody was immune to the hurt that whole situation caused, and so I can tell you, I'm sure I'm happy that it's all one unit now, and it's all being pulled one direction, sure. And now with Roger at the helm of IndyCar, it's just going to get better and better and better. That's what I see. So.
Yeah, in fact, my only Uncle Bobby story that I have, it surrounds that first race. And long story short, I'm in a hotel room. I had actually fallen asleep on, the Speedway motel room. I'd fallen asleep on the bed because I had been to Raceway Park the night before. And of course, it's a rain delay, whatever it was that year, or maybe it was the following year, whichever year. And I hear somebody just talking and talking and talking. And I'm like, who is talking so much?
Yeah,
And
Uncle
because I'm sleep,
Bobby.
I'm sleep on, and I wake up and it's your Uncle Bobby. He's just talking, and he's talking to Parnelli. Parnelli was in the room, and they were having a conversation. It was just funny, because he just keeps talking and talking and talking. And it is just, everybody, I guess, that's been around has got an Uncle Bobby story if you've been around a little
Right.
bit, and that's mine.
Yeah.
So obviously, I mean, after 2000, you do the 500 pretty much every year. I think minus 2005 up to 2007. So at that point, was it something where it was just like, Indy meant so much, you just wanted to do it as long as you could?
Yeah, well, I I retired in 04 during the season. Okay, so 04 was the last really full season I did. Well, 03 was the last full season I did, and then the situation that I had with Patrick, I was driving for him. We had the Chevy engine, which was built by Ilmore, I think, at the time, and really it was Honda and Toyota were dominating they had the power, and so we just didn't have the engine for it. I ran Texas in 04, and I ran around there wide open the whole race and ended up 2 laps down. Okay, I mean, just nothing. It just was just slow, no power. And so we get to Richmond, and it's the same thing again. It just didn't have the power. So I wasn't having any fun anymore with all this kind of stuff, and so I retired and finished out the season with Patrick as a spotter for the drivers that he put in there, and then the 05 Indy 500 rolls around, and I'm not going to miss it, and lo and behold, a race day on TV, I'm watching it and I'm yelling at the TV, kind of thing, and I missed it. I truly missed it, but it was the only race that I missed. I didn't miss anything else. Okay, and so I came back and looked for a ride and got a good one with Dennis Reinbold in 06, and then 07 I drove for AJ, and then I was done. That was it. So I didn't miss the 500 anymore until actually when race day rolls around and I'm at the track and they're saying, "Gentlemen, start your engines." And I go, man, that'd be just so cool to be a part of that and all that. And then they come around and the green flag falls and they go charging into turn 1. And I go, I don't miss that. And so, yeah, that's pretty much the way it is. So.
Was there ever a moment during those pre-races that, because for some people, obviously, this is the case where pre-race, there's a moment for some people, the emotions of the month just really hit them. Was it around Gentlemen Start Your Engines back home again in Indiana? Did you have any of those types of experiences, or is it just always business?
No, absolutely. Every year I had those strong feelings and those emotions, especially when Jim Neighbors would start to sing Back Home Again. I mean, that really encompasses the whole thing and all the traditions. And yeah, no matter who you are, you definitely feel something, every time that happens and you're a part of it. So.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously you drove many different cars, like you said. Was there one car that you think, like, if you had to pick one car that was the most fun you ever had driving, would there be one car you would pick?
Well, it all depends on the series. Okay. In IROC, the fun car was the car that handled really good and ran really good. Okay. Because you drove a lot of different ones. In the 24 Hours of Daytona, the special car was the 962 Porsche. You know, the Al Holbert team, the Lowenbrow Porsche. That was a super special car. As far as Indy cars were concerned with, actually, it was the car that I finished my stint with Roger, which was the PC-27, which was designed by John Travis. You know, that was a really unique and special car. And, you know, unfortunately, it didn't win any races, but it wasn't the car's fault that it didn't win any races. It was, you know, I still say the tires and the engine were just not up to par with the competitors. And so that's the only thing that kept it out of victory lane.
You know, going back a few years in time, you run second to your dad in the championship by what, 1 point, something like that.
85.
Now, of course, all these, you know, all racing families are extremely competitive. For you, was that something you're like, man, I can't believe I lost to him? Like, it meant a little more that you wanted to beat him, or was it something like, hey, I'm so happy it was my dad?
No, I was so happy it was my dad. Okay. I was very upset that I lost the championship by 1 point to anybody. I lost the
Right.
championship. Okay. It didn't matter. But what really soothed that over was the fact that it was my dad. And so if I'm going to lose to anybody, I'd rather it be my dad than anybody else. So
Did you get to race against Bobby in '82? Because was that his last year? Or
no,
he ran '81. Was his last year '81?
yes, yeah.
Yeah,
His last year
that's
was
right.
81. So
So you
yeah,
just missed out.
yeah. I just missed Uncle Bobby by that much. You know.
Yeah. I saw what you said in a thing one time where you loved you wanted to be like Uncle Bobby because he won so much, or something like that. I mean, what kind of? I mean, it seemed like your dad and him had such different personalities. Like they were completely kind of seemed like 180 of each other. What was it about Uncle Bobby that was just such an endearing guy, you know, to
Well, just
people?
the sheer desire and sheer work that he actually put into it. You know, you kind of look at Uncle Bobby, and he really didn't have natural talent like my dad or Mario had. Just natural talent. It just came out of him, and myself. I had just that natural talent. Uncle Bobby didn't. He had to really work hard at it, and you know, he was under the mindset uh, back during his whole career. You know, the cars weren't very reliable. Okay, so there was
Right.
a lot of mechanical failures. No matter if you treated your car nice or not, it would break. You know, and it just, you know, you were lucky to finish. And so Uncle Bobby was on the mindset that hey, if this thing's going to break and it's not going to go I want to be leading when it does. Okay, where my dad really didn't care about that. He wanted to get to the end of the race. And so dad really took care of his equipment as best he could during the race and work himself to the point of being in position to win at the end of it. And so that's two different mindsets. And it worked for both of them. You know, it worked for dad,
Right.
and the mindset for Uncle Bobby, it worked for him. And so I tried to, you know, observe this and look at it and try to get the best of both worlds is what I was really trying to do. And so yeah, I'd work hard at qualifying and leading the race and all that, but I didn't put everything on that like Uncle Bobby did. And so you know, like Long Beach, I'd go out there like, well, let's just talk about my qualifying. I think I had 8 poles in my entire career. Okay. I just kind of figured if I was somewhere in the first 3 rows, I can win the race from there. Okay. So that's really what I really tried hard to do was, you know, be within a couple tenths or a half a second of the guy who's on the pole. And if I could be there, then, you know, as the race unfolds and the conditions change and all that kind of stuff, you can actually go out there and race them. Okay, so that was really my mindset on that. So
Did you like, you know, and I'm sure there's other people who could answer this as well, but I can't think of too many. you started obviously in '82. The cars were much different than the cars you finished your career in. Was there a particular style? I mean, did you prefer the style of racing, and through from '82 to the mid '90s, or when the IRL started, or did you like that IRL style of racing where the cars were locked down and they were so side by side and that sort of stuff?
Well, the formula changes. Okay, so
Sure.
you can go back to the roadsters. The development of the race car, it changes, and so that's all that was going on from the beginning of my career to the end of my career. I can tell you, at the end of my career, the cars were so much safer than they were at
Yes.
the beginning of my career, and so and the performance level and all that, it was great, to be a part of that change, which it changed over my dad's career when he first started, him and Uncle Bobby, to the end of their career. The cars were so much safer at the end of their career than at the beginning. And so, that really how that went. And so to be a part of that, growth, when I first started as a rookie, there was no computers, there was no data, the engineer was not really called an engineer. He was called the chief mechanic, the crew chief. Okay.
Right.
And so, you'd come in and you'd be testing, and you come in and they just, okay, Al, what's it doing? What do you need? Kind of thing. And so then you would relay what you needed. Once the computer and the data hit, which was in the mid '80s, they wouldn't really ask you how the car's feeling. They would, but they'd be plugging in the laptop and downloading all the data and then really going off of that, rather than of course they wanted to make you happy and relied on you, but not as much. You got less and less and less and less. So.
Right.
We had Willie T. Ribs on, and
I knew this was coming.
and he told us a story.
Of course, he's got lots of them.
And this specific story actually involved you, so I guess we just want to confirm or deny it. But
Okay.
so his rookie year, he says that he's at the driver's meeting with you, and you tell him, you say, "Hey Willie, tomorrow the race and the pace laps. If you go into the first turn, because the snake pit was first turn, then right, Scott?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go into the first turn and you look over into the snake pit, he goes, and you told him that the woman will flash you as you drive by.
No, I didn't say that. That's Willie. That's Willie. No.
He said he kept his seatbelts loose, and he said he was like looking
so that he
on
can
the corner.
see. Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. No, that's Willie.
How did you guys? Because it's obvious you guys are good friends. How did you guys develop such a close friendship?
Well, it actually began in the early '80s. I mean, we were teammates on Dan Gurney's Toyota effort when they were GTUs. Okay.
Okay.
And so we were teammates on that team, and then we ran together in Atlantics at Long Beach, and our careers kind of paralleled each other. And so there was that time there that he went Trans Am, that I was in Indy cars, and then he moved over to the Indy cars, and I wanted to help him as much as I possibly could. And so Willie was just he's a special guy. And so when we ended our careers in racing, we kind of went away again, and then we came back together in 2014 when Tony Perella had the SVRA Pro Am, at the Speedway, and we reconnected, and we've been connected ever since. So he's a good man. I love how he plays around with so much on interviews and stuff like that. So yeah, he's a good guy.
Is he kind of is it kind of a deal where like maybe your personalities are so much a little different that it's again such a good play off each other, because he's going to say whatever he's going to say.
Exactly. Yeah, it is the perfect yin and yang. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah.
So we talked a little bit about your book when we started this, but so if someone wants to buy your book, where can they go to buy it?
Yeah, they go to they can go to Amazon and buy the book from Amazon, or they can go to octanepress.com is the publishers and get it straight from them. So, yep.
I know you were doing a bunch of book signings, I guess, really the past couple months. You think you're doing book signings probably in May at some point?
My next book signing will be, believe it or not, at the Indianapolis airport Monday after the race.
Oh.
Is where I'm going to be. From 11 to 1, I'm going to be somewhere in the airport doing a book signing there when hopefully all the fans and stuff are going to be leaving town, and they're going to be walking right by us. So hopefully they'll pick up a book then.
Has it been everything you wanted, or has it been more than you wanted with this book? Because I would think a book like, I mean, it's such a, it's, to me, you're, if you do it right, you expose yourself. This is who I am. And so how is that for you? How's that process been for you?
It was, writing the book. I did a lot of praying because I wanted to tell the truth. There's a lot of challenges that I've had in my life, both on the track and off the track. And I wanted to just tell the truth and get it out there, especially off the track with my, illness with substance abuse and substance use disorder, which is what I have. Okay. And so if I could share, the truth on all that and just say just how I worked through it and that sort of thing, and how I'm working through it today. It's a daily challenge, guys. I mean, that's the way it is. And that'll be that way for the rest of my life. And if I could help one person, go ask for help. That was my biggest thing. People looked at you and said, Al, you need help. And no, I don't need any help. I'm good, kind of thing. And I did. I needed help. And
Right.
And asking for help was one of the biggest challenges that I
Sure.
ever had. And so once you do, then it's like breaking through and you go and you accept it and that sort of thing. And so for the people out there, just ask for help. It's not that, these are mental illness issues that a lot of people have, and so how do they do it? They take that first step, let's say, and ask for help. And if they can do that, then they're on their way to having a better life. And if I could share that and so on, and like I said, if we could help just one person, then it was worth going out on a limb or what have you and talking about it. So,
that brings me to something I wanted to ask you, and something I've actually always wanted to ask you since an incident. And please tell me if I get any part of this wrong. Your last major incident, 2019, you go to a event for the team. Is that correct? After making the race, and you have too many drinks or whatever happens, and you go to leave. And did anybody in that room, because everybody knew that you had issues before, did anybody say, hey, Al, let's get you a cab, let's get you an Uber, let's get you something?
No, it wasn't a team deal at all.
Okay.
I was home drinking by myself. I went to see a friend somewhere else. I was alone. I was by myself. And so, and then it went further when I got to the friend's house and so on. And no, I mean, the friend said, hey, why don't you not drive or whatever? I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm good. I'll make it home. And I didn't, and so again, that's what happened. It wasn't anything other than that. The friend really had no choice in the matter. They tried, but they didn't have a choice in the matter. So
I misunderstood the story. So obviously it wasn't as I had been led to believe.
Yeah, no, it
But-
wasn't with
but-
any team at all. It wasn't. No. We had made the race. It was a good day, and so on.
Okay.
Yeah.
But your friend said, "Hey, man, let's not do this." But you're an adult man. You can't be stopped.
I made the wrong decision to get behind the wheel, and that's where
Right.
it lies. And so, whether you're sick or not, the bad decision is getting behind the wheel of a car when you're inebriated. That's the bad decision.
Sure.
So
Well-
being ill and so on, that's really not a bad decision. That there's no decision there. You're either sick or you're not, kind of thing. And if you're sick, and then you have no choice. But the choice to get behind a wheel is the wrong choice. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I could never throw stones, because when I was younger, I did it myself. I quit drinking several years ago, but I mean, I had gotten into a car and drove many times in my life when I should never have.
We all have.
So, and I want to give you a second to kind of talk. I know you're involved with a lot of different, like, I guess charities or, stuff like that. I want to give you a moment to kind of promote, some of the stuff you're involved with.
Yeah, no, what we're doing now is a true blessing. I'm with a team that's a startup team. Mark McAllister is the owner of the team, and it's called Future Star Racing. We race in SCCA, Formula 4, and Formula R, which is Formula Regional. And so we go to the SCCA races. We're really the next step out of go-karts with the kids. And so our drivers are like 16 to 19 years old, and just at the beginning of their career. And so it's so gratifying to be able to pass on what was so freely given to me by my dad and Uncle Bobby and so on. And that's really all I'm doing, is just passing on what I had been taught at that age. And it's so cool to go to the track and watch them develop through the year. And like, we've got David Burkett in our Formula 4 car this year, young African-American guy. And the change from him at the beginning of the year to just now, has been remarkable. I mean, the confidence that he's now showing in driving and that sort of thing. And just, it's just so gratifying to be a part of it. And I feel so blessed that Mark McAllister has looked my way, and said, yeah, Al, I want you to come and be a part of this team, and so on. So, I'm director of competition, I'm driver coach, I'm team manager now. And I came on as just a driver's coach, and so it's evolved into something that now I'm ordering fuel, ordering fares, working with the mechanics, getting them hotels. And then when we get to the track, I'm helping the drivers and so on. It's just a true blessing to be a part of. And I just thank Mark McAllister and honestly, Jesus Christ for letting me having this opportunity to do this. And then on the other side of it, the Wings and Wheels Foundation is something that Mark McAllister has started. To what his vision is truly is to help kids that don't have the funding to go to that next step. And so he's got two what we call scholarship cars that David Burkett is in the one. Matt Clark is a young Canadian driver from Canada. And so he's in our FR car, and he's already won one of the races this year. And Mac is just a super driver, a super good, talented kid. And so really Mark is providing them with the opportunities to be the best that they can be, and go on with their career up the ladder. So and then the Wings and Wheels Foundation, that's what that's all about, is helping that vision that anybody can be a part of to help these kids who, for whatever reasons, socially, economically, they don't have the opportunities to go up that ladder. And the Wings and Wheels Foundation, Mark McAllister, is providing that. So.
Well, and as you know, I mean, you had a son that tried to race, and I assume there's probably some monetary issues there. I mean, as with all drivers.
Absolutely, it was totally funding that stopped my son Al from going up that ladder. Yeah.
We've had several young drivers on the show. We've had Flynn Lazier, Jack Miller's son, Jackson Lee, and Jagger Jones, which is Parnelli's grandson. We've had them all on the show, and they're all trying to make their way through the road to Indy and that sort of thing. And what kind of advice can you give to younger drivers who are just trying to come through? Even say they have funding. Let's just say somebody has the funding.
Right,
there still has to be advice.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just comes down to, this is a tough business. You got to work at it 24/7. And so you have to persevere, never give up, because you never know what God has in store for you tomorrow. And so just never give up, just stay in there and just keep following your dreams. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I think that's great words of wisdom right there.
Yeah.
Obviously your daughter has a foundation as well, and
Mhm.
if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, the Cody Unser First Step Foundation. Cody is my oldest daughter. When she was 12 years old, she was playing basketball on a Friday. On the next day, on Saturday, she woke up. She's a paraplegic, and what happened to her is called transverse myelitis, which is an autoimmune disease that a virus got in her spinal cord. Her own immune system went to kill the virus. It did, but it took out 2 inches of her spinal cord at the same time.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it was devastating for my daughter for me to see my daughter just, wake up one morning and she's paralyzed. And so her and her mom started a foundation, the Cody Unser First Step Foundation. And so to bring both quality of life and awareness to her disease. And what ended up happening, Cody loved to go scuba diving. And so when she is under the water down there, she feels free. She doesn't feel handicapped at all. And so they were trying to bring veterans back who have, had their legs or their illnesses, where they're paraplegic. And they discovered that especially with the veterans, that it helped their PTSD by going scuba diving. And it's had something to do with the pressure of the water or just that feeling of the freedom that they got by scuba diving into the water. And so it helped with other illnesses that they had. And so, Cody's done great things with her foundation as far as helping other people.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Well, you have anything else, Scott?
I do. I'll take it easy on you because this one question I typically would throw out about 5 or 6 names. I'm not going to do that to you. I do want to ask this question a little different way than I normally would. I would give a list of drivers and just have see what kind of say how this person was to race with or something like that. I'm going to change this up a little bit for you and just say who for you was maybe your toughest competitor, or for somebody that maybe that is the most that you really enjoyed racing, something along those lines.
I was so fortunate to be in the generation of drivers that I was in. Okay, so I got to race against Emerson Fittipaldi. I got to race against Nigel Mansell. I got to race against Mario Andretti, my dad, Gordon Johncock, Johnny Rutherford, AJ Foyt, Michael Andretti, Bobby Rahal, Rick Mears, Danny Sullivan. I got to race against all these mega talented drivers, and you never could pick just one guy that you went, because they were all so good, and it just happened just on that particular day is when they would shine. So that's who I would concentrate on that particular day, because like if I only worried about my dad, trying to beat my dad, 6 or 7 other guys would go by me on the other side. Okay. And so, I was just so fortunate to be able to just, and it was so competitive because, any particular day, any one of these guys would be the guy to beat. Okay. And so I worked at all of them. I just, whoever was fast, you just concentrate on that guy and go out there and follow him and find out why is he fast and where is he fast and where you need to get quicker to get on their weakness or what have you. So that's how I worked at it.
Did you build a mental notebook on all these guys? Like,
oh yeah. You had to. Yeah. I mean,
right.
It was, because we raced so much, together and for so many years there that you started seeing, where they were really strong and where they weren't, and that kind of thing. And you just worked at it. Yeah.
I kind of lied to you. Since you said his name, I'm going to ask you about one. That's Rick Mears. To me, I thought Rick Mears, I think the two people I think of when I think of IndyCar, one of them is you and the other is Rick Mears. And then Michael would be in that same group.
Right.
But what was Mick like? What was Rick like?
Rick is so quiet. He's just, and he's so talented and just worked at it hard and he truly concentrated on the Indy 500, like we all did. And that's where he really shined. Even when he was a rookie, he went out there and took a non-ground effects car in 1979 and put it on the pole where all the other cars were ground effects cars. And if you watch his qualifying run, he's so loose. I mean, I don't know how he did it, but he did, and that's just Rick. I mean, we used to when we were talking when I joined Penske Racing, and he was, my mentor or whatever with driver coach or what have you. Okay, and we used to sit and we would talk about, he asked me, are you a right front driver or a right rear driver? Okay, so just think about being on an oval. Do you want it to push or do you want it to be just a little bit loose? Okay, and I want my back end solid. So I'm a right front driver where I want that to break away and be confident with the back end. And Rick was a right rear driver where he wanted that front end positive and where it was just a little bit on the nervous side. Well, you got to just stay up on the steering wheel so much when the car's like that. You're risking quite a lot, but that's the way Rick drove. Okay, and that's what made it for him, his style. And so I mean that's Rick is super competitive, super smart. He worked at it just like we all did.
Rick, I thought Rick had that amazing capacity to pull something out that he hadn't showed you before when he needed to.
Yeah, Rick, like we talk about the 84 Indy 500, okay? And by the time we got to half distance, there was only 3 guys on the lead lap. It was Mears, myself, and Tom Sneva. And so I got by Tom, and then I was chasing Mears, and I was chasing him down, and I was catching him, and I'm really working hard at it, right? Because I want to lead this thing. And we're at about 120 laps or something like that. And I tell him, I was catching you. I had you covered. He goes, no way. I hadn't showed you anything yet. I was just cruising, running the laps off. And I go, no way. I had you. So that's how it goes back and forth. But no, Rick, it's true. He doesn't show you until the end of the race what he's got, especially if he's leading. If he's leading that thing, Rick's going to pull something out like he did with Michael Andretti the year.
That's right.
That all that happened. Okay.
That deal right there, I couldn't believe.
Right.
When Michael passed him, I thought that's it. That's the race.
It. Right. I thought the same thing.
And when Rick drove by him doing the same exact thing, I thought,
and then left him and then checked out.
I mean I mean, as a driver, and please tell me if I'm wrong. As a driver, that has to be almost demoralizing.
It is.
When you made such a beautiful pass, a daring pass, and Michael is as daring as there ever was.
What's demoralizing is the fact that, he didn't show his cards until the end, and then he checks out, and then you lose the race. That's demoralizing.
Right.
Okay? Where you really thought you had a shot at it, and then he comes along and just takes you out, and so that was
to me, that's one of the most amazing sequences I've ever seen there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my last question is, and it's we always ask to keep it as family friendly as possible.
Okay.
We always ask for a good racing story. Anybody that's been in the sport for a long time, do you have a good racing story you can kind of share with us? Because there's, obviously out of racing, there's always something that goes on.
Yeah, the one that kind of comes to mind at my rookie year at Pocono. We're at Pocono 500 in my rookie year, and we're under caution, and we're about halfway in the race, and we're under caution, and Gordon Johncock pulls. Well, it was Foyt. Foyt pulls up next to me going down the backstretch, and he goes, "Turn 2 outside," and I go, okay, so I look turn 2, which is the kink, okay, and I'm looking at the track, and I'm just looking, and there's nothing there. There's nothing there. So we get back around, and I slow down and force AJ to come up next to me, and he goes turn 2 outside, and I go like this. I put my hands up, like, what are you talking about, and I look again, and so come back around. I slow down again to go, what's going on? Well, now Gordon Johncock's checking all this out. And so he pulls up next to me, he passes AJ, pulls up next to me, goes turn 2 outside. And I'm looking and I'm looking, and there ain't nothing out there. Okay. Nothing out there. So they just finally, both of them just give up on me. They go, you don't know what you're doing. They just both gave. So we go back to green again, and we're running. And then near the end of the race, we have another caution. And so I'm thinking about this. What the hell is out there? And I finally looked up and saw the motorhomes, and there's a girl with a bikini on the top of the motorhome dancing around in a bikini. And I'm going, those guys, they're looking up in the grandstands at all the girls under caution. They're not paying attention to the track or whatever. And I'm going, oh my God. So I learned a lesson about those boys at that time.
And Willie T would have really enjoyed that one.
Oh yeah, he will. So, yeah.
Well, Al, we really appreciate you taking the time and talking to us. It's an absolute honor, like I said earlier, to have you on. And yeah, thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks for having us, and I hope everything works out for the best.
Hey Al, thank you so much. Your background is somewhat in sprint car type racing. Do you ever go to any of the local tracks in Indiana from time to time?
I haven't. I never raced it at Terre Haute, and I've gone to the track just to see it, not for an event, but hopefully we'll get out sometime and maybe hook up with Tony Stewart and go to one of his sprint car races and so on. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it's been an absolute honor for me. Thank you so much. I as a kid, we're not that much age difference. I mean, I'm 53. So we're roughly the same age.
Right.
I just remember looking at you and thinking, man, this guy is unbelievable.
Well, thank you.
And I just I want to say thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure.
You got it. Thanks for having us on.
Yep. Thanks,
Thank
Al.
you.
Okay. You got
Bye.
it. Thank you. Cheers.
Bye-bye.